summer draws is fly fishing. It's a key part of our summer economy and brings people from all over North America to fish West Slope cutthroat trout. Many of my friends who work in the industry and rely on the river to provide for their families are increasingly concerned about the ever rising levels of contamination. Concerns regarding selenium have been part of our lives in the Elk Valley since the 1990s. For over 25 years, the provincial government, the federal government, and Teck have assured us that all will be well, and they are dealing with it. We regularly hear how much money Teck is spending, yet levels continue to rise. Statistics and assurances mean little when you can't drink the water. As you may be aware, we are at a crossroads in the Elk Valley. Teck is selling its coal properties to Glencore, a Swiss mining giant. Again, we have assurances. Yet with a long history of failures in the Elk Valley, our skepticism runs high. Our valley needs to heal, yet Glencore promises government expansion of the mines. The Ktunaxa Nation, ourselves, and others have been calling for an International Joint Commission reference on the issue of selenium and other contamination in the waters of the Elk Valley. The provincial and federal governments have failed us. We need this broad oversight. We need the health of our river back. We have a right to safe drinking water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McNair. We'll go now to Mr. McCann for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président, et les membres du comité pour l'invitation.
Thank you for the invitation.
Critical relationship. Water, food security, and national security are inextricably linked. Agriculture, the driver of food security, is limited by water quality and quantity. While Canadians often consider water to be an abundant natural resource around the world, pressures including increasing demand and climate change are turning water into a scarce resource and reinforcing how precarious agriculture's relationship with water can be. That increasingly precarious relationship is part of the reason why CAPI launched an initiative on agri-food water earlier this year. This work was funded in part by the RBC Tech for Nature Fund and was led by our distinguished fellow Nicolas Mesley. Before I dive into our recommendations, I'd like to provide some context. First, Canadian agriculture compares pretty well to other major food producers when it comes to water. Canadian beef has a water footprint smaller than the world average and is 70% of the footprint of Brazilian beef. Canadian beef also reduced its water intensity by 20% between 1981 and 2011. When it comes to wheat, we have a smaller footprint than the global average, with the lowest footprint measured in a 2010 study. Food processing made up 7% of all manufacturing water intake in Canada, and improvements in efficiency actually helped lead to a falling water use between 2013 and 2017. Increasingly, players in agriculture and food value chains are setting and working towards water use efficiency targets. But these figures do not capture how volatile agriculture's relationship with water has become. Struggling to cope with too much or not enough water is something that unites farmers from coast to coast. Our recently released report included a series of recommendations built around the creation of a national agri-food water action plan. We did not call for a strategy. It seems like we are drowning in strategies these days. What we need is action. The action plan must bring together different levels of government with farmers, Indigenous communities, civil society, and the ag value chain to proactively plan for and deliver the two outcomes we need. One that conserves this vital resource and one that leverages it to boost sustainable food production. Federal, provincial, territorial agriculture ministers should take ownership of agri-food water. Our report recommends that they commit to develop the action plan by convening an expert panel, releasing a State of Agri-Food Water report, and then releasing the full action plan in July 2025. Our report also recommends immediate action while the action plan is being developed. Immediate actions include developing a coordinated model for standardized data collecting and reporting, going further to use watersheds as the basis for research, innovation, and knowledge mobilization, investing in a mission-driven research call to respond to the grand challenge of conserving and leveraging water as a strategic asset. Finally, I'd like to touch on the role of the Canada Water Agency, which came up throughout the outreach that we undertook for the report. There were ongoing questions about what the role the agency would play and how agriculture and food would fit into its mandate. There is significant potential for the Water Agency to facilitate and convene progress on this important issue. A common refrain was that the agency should be a convener and an enabler and not a regulator. Given the needs and the potential of agriculture, the industry should embrace agriculture, but as a partner. Water is critical for agriculture. Too much or too little has the potential to cause significant harm to food production, but managed and leveraged strategically, it can give Canada a significant competitive advantage in an increasingly hot, thirsty, hungry world. I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCann. We'll go to the first round, starting with Mr. Mazier.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the panel for coming out here.